Okay, Rabbi Isai. A good Chodesh, everybody. Today is Rosh Chodesh Sivan. Of course, a Gavaldik Tag, as we're getting ready and closer to Shavuos. So we're beginning to learn some minyanim that will connect us, prepare us for the Yom Tov of Shavuos. I'm going to assume we did some of the Matam Rekaimis. We're going to just go through the pratim I want to together, but let me just remark them what we're trying to explain over here. There's a general question that's brought down in Chassidus a lot of times. What is the Chiddush of Matan Torah? What happened? A Naya Zach. What's the new thing that Matan Torah introduced? Seemingly, Torah and mitzvahs, tzaddikim, oivdei Hashem existed beforehand. Of course, the Aves, the Shvatim, v'chulu. The question is repeated many times, and the answers are explained in various ways. But in today's share, I want to focus on one open of the question. The question, in other words, can be divided in three ways. What's the chiddush in Torah? What's the chiddush in mitzvahs? And then what's the chiddush in Oived Hashem serving the Eibishter? If you look closely to the different Maimorim, you'll find a different detail of the question that's being discussed. Is it the mitzvahs? Is it the Torah? Is it serving the Eibishter? These are different ways of analyzing the question, and of course, that affects also the answer. So in today's share, we're going to discuss the Chiddush in Torah. What's the difference of us learning Torah? And the reason why I want to focus on this, as Talmidei Yeshiva, which we are in this to learn Torah the whole time, the answer to this question shapes our way of learning Torah. Okay? So let us begin with a Gemara that I did not put in the Matam Rekaimis, but that's that would be the Yesod to this whole question. I'm going to put it up here on the screen. Okay. So we're preparing for Shavuos. What was given by Matan Torah if the Aves already learned Torah? We'll start with Alpi Nigla and we'll conclude with the way it is Alpi Chassidus. So here's the Gemara in Yuma. Amar Reb Chama bar Chanina mimeyen shel Aveseinu lo parsha yeshiva mehem. Throughout the days of our Aves, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, but it doesn't mean over here that just the Aves, but our forefathers, all the fathers of the Jewish people, starting from any time before Matan Torah, they had a yeshiva. As the Gemara now brings the rayas for each time period. Hayu b'Mitzrayim yeshiva imam. While they were in Mitzrayim, they had a yeshiva with them. Shenemar leich v'asafta ziknei Yisrael. Go and gather the ziknei Yisrael. And Bachrim, we learned in Kiddushin, when it says the word zakein, what does it mean? Zeh shekana chachma. The word zaken means that it's a wise, learned person, and proper wise and proper learned means chachmas hatayra, like the Mefarshim over there explained. So they had chachmas hatayra in Mitzrayim. They were learning Torah. Hayu b'midbar yeshiva imam shnamar esval yeshiva miziknei Yisrael. Again, regarding the times of the Midbar, it said also the word Ziknei Yisrael. And Zakim means Zeshakana Chachma, which is the Chachma Satayra. Then the Gemara goes back earlier. Avram Avinu Zakin v'yeshiv b'shiva haya. Shenemar b'Avram Zakin b'aba yamim. It uses the word Zakin over there, which again is the same Nekuda, Zeshakana Chachma. Yitzchak Avinu Zakin v'yeshiva b'shiva. Yitzchak was the same way. Haya Shenamar v'Haya Ki Zakin Yitzchak. Again, it refers to Yitzchak as Zakin. And Yaakov Avinu Zakin v'yeshiv b'shiva. Shenamar v'Einei Yisrael Kavdim v'Zakin. The Mefarshim explain why we have to start with Mitzrayim and then go to Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. But what they give for our shir is the Nekuda that the Gemara is saying clearly that they had a yeshiva, they sat and learned. And what did they learn? They learned Chachma. And what's Chachma? Chachma Satera. Eliezer Eved Avram Zaken B'Yeshiva. Not only Avram, but his Talmidim, his Eved Eliezer, was also one that was learning. Shenemar V'Yemer Avram Al Avdei Zikan Besa. He used the word Zikan. Zaken, we said before, means Zekan Chachma. Hameshel B'Chol HaShalei. It refers to Eliezer. He was his top Eved, and he was also learning Torah. The fact that the pasuk continues and says he was in control of everything that Avram had, it means to say that he was controlling his Torah. What does it mean controlling his Torah? He had a full understanding of Avram's Torah, teachings of Torah, and he passed it on to others as the pasuk Gemara continues, who damesek Eliezer, the word damesek, so it's like a Rashi Teva is from doila and mashke. The dalid referring to the word doila, where he draws, and mashke is he pours out, he gives it to drink to others. Right? He took the Torah that Avram Avinu taught him, the Torah that Avram Avinu taught him, he taught to others. So this section of the Gemara is all talking about the study of Torah. Learning Torah on its own existed before Matan Torah. It existed in Mitzrayim. It existed by the Aves, and not just themselves, but they learned from those that followed them, as we see by Eliezer. Then the Gemara continues and says that this is not only true regarding learning Torah, the same is true regarding being Mekayim, what the Torah says you should do. Because Torah is Miloshin Hayda, Torah instructs us how to act. Amarav Kim Avram Avinu Kol HaTorah Kula. Avram was Mekayim. He fulfilled all the Torah instructions. Shenemar Ekev Asher Shama Avram B'Koili. He listened and he followed the instructions of the Torah that Hashem writes in the Torah. The Gemara has a bit of a question over here. Maybe that pasuk that you brought as a raya, that Avram followed through with what Torah says, maybe it only means Sheva Mitzvahs. All it says is Avram listened. How do you know that he completed all 613? Right? Maybe it's Sheva Mitzvahs. So the Gemara says, 1 second. You can't limit it to only Sheva Mitzvahs. Ha'ikanami Mila. There's clearly the mitzvah of Bris Mila, which we know Avram Avinu fulfilled. So he says, fine. So Be'ema Sheva Mitzvahs Mila. Maybe the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach, which was existent at the time, plus Mila. If that was a now, he would have just said Shama Avram B'Koili. Why does it say mitzvosai, mitzvosai? These are coming to include a lot more, not just those mitzvahs that were existing then, but all the mitzvahs and all the Torah tells us to do. Amar Rabbi Timur Ravashi, Kim Avram Avinu afilu einu ve'tavshilin. The Gemara says further that not only was he Merkayim Torah shebechsav, but even things that come in the Rabbanon, einu ve'tavshilin. Shenatmar Torah Yisai, it's a plural language. Torah Yisai, achas Torah shebechsav, achas Torah shebapeh. Any instruction given to us to do by the Torah, not only the written Torah, but even the oral Torah, was performed by Avraham Avinu. So you have in this Gemara 3 inyan. You had Avraham Avinu learning all of Torah. You had him doing all the mitzvahs. And then the third thing, you had him doing even mitzvahs that are bottom. So whichever might you're going to learn about Shavuos, very likely this Gemara is going to be quoted in some way or another. Avraham Avinu did already what Matan Torah seemed to have been introducing to us. In this year, we want to discuss the first section of this Gemara. If they learned Torah already, they learned not only Torah Shebechsav, but apparently they learned Torah Shebal Peh. They learned it. And so they learned it. What's the Chiddush? What's the Chiddush of today's study of Torah? That's the question. So you saw in the Modern Mechanisms I gave you earlier a couple of stories. And we're not going to go through all of the stories. You did it with the whole thing from beginning to end. But we're going to go to the punchline of these stories and see how the question is answered of Pinigla and how this is translated in the Oasis of Chassidus. So what's the first nekuda here? Our first story is the Gemara in Bava Metzia. Over here, you have that case of that oven that was made out of clay, and when a keli from clay, becomes tummy, you cannot table in the mikveh. You have to destroy it. You have to break it apart. Now, the way they used to make these ovens in those days, they would make it by certain smaller parts, chulyos in the term of the Gemara, and they would cement it together. And there was a question between the Tanoim: what happens if I destroyed it, but in a neat way? I took apart piece by piece. I didn't, blast it and blow it apart. I neatly took apart the pieces. So now it's ois oven, it's not a keli anymore. And then I put some cement in between, and I cemented it together again, and now it's back functioning as an oven. Was I matar it or not? The Chum said no, and the Rebbe Elazar said it is tahor. This wasn't just a theoretical question. The story actually happened. And the owner of the tanur, which some say his name was Achnoi, came to Rebbe Elazar and said, what's the halacha? Are my baked goods, my food in this oven, are they tar? Can I eat it as tar? If I'm a kohen, may I eat it? Do I become tamei? Is it all good or not? And he said, it's tar. The Chum were very upset, and they said, no, it's not tar. And you're wrong. You cannot pass it that way. And they went into extreme measures to enforce their psak din against what Rebbe Elazar said. The argument became intense, and it says in the Gemara there that Rebbe Elazar gave kol tshuvas sheba olam. Rebbe Elazar tried every single explanation, and they would not accept his explanations. So he went on to a new pathway. He started saying, if I'm correct, let the tree, the charav tree, move 50 amas. If the water, if I'm correct, let the flow of the river change directions. Let the walls of the base measures begin to cave in, and all these things happen, and the Chachamim were not disposed. But here's what the punchline we want to get to over here. Amar lahem, I'm reading over here in the Gemara. Amar lahem, so he told them like this: Im halacha kamoisi, min hashamayim yechichu. If the halacha is like me, then let the heavens prove that I'm right. Yatzisa baskoy v'amra malachem etz for Rebbe Elazar shalacha kemoisai b'chol mokim. The halacha is like him. They paskin like him. The Baskol said halacha kemoisai. Halacha is like him. Comes along the Bishua. Amar the Bishua al ragla v'amar lei b'shamayim. It's not in the heaven. What does the mean, lei b'shamayim? The Gemara right away asks, my lei b'shamayim, what did the Bishua mean to say? Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah explained, shekvar nitna Torah mehar Sinai. The Torah was given by or from Har Sinai. And therefore, ein anu mashkichim bevaskol. We will no longer listen to a baskol. We will not take heed to the baskol. Shekvar kosafta bar Sinai b'Torah achrei rabim lahatos. We have to follow the majority. And the majority of the Chachamim presently in the Beis Medrash do not agree with Rebbe Elazar. We hold that the oven is tamei. We will not listen to the heavenly voice. They had no question in their mind that heavenly voice came from Shemayim, came from the Eibishter. And yet Rabbi Yeshua stood up and said, we will not listen. We will follow the Torah as it was given to us by Har Sinai. That's the story. And as you can see in the words of the Gemara, Shekvar nitna Torah mehar Sinai. The punchline over here is that it was given by Har Sinai. It doesn't say, it says in the Torah, Achrei Rabim Lahatis. That's not what Rabbi Yeshua pointed out. The punchline here is it was given mehar Sinai. From the Torah of Har Sinai is where we learned not to listen to the Baskol. The fact that Torah existed earlier may have allowed us to be influenced by a Basco. Only because of our Sinai did that change. We're going to explain this a little bit more, but I'm assuming you can see where we're going to. There's a certain shift that happened in the way we study Torah, that before Har Sinai, before Shavuos, before Matan Torah, if a Basco would have come out from the heaven and said halachas like this and this, halacha like Rabbi Lazar, or whatever other instruction, we wouldn't take heed. We would listen to it. After Matan Torah, we no longer should listen to it. We do not listen to it because we follow what is written in the Torah.
How can you use the story as a proof?
What?
How can you use this story as a proof? The same voice, the same Basco, the same voice which told us a sensitive race about Matan Torah, the same voice which is telling them the lacha right now.
Okay, that is a great question, Daniel. Well asked and well articulated. It's the same voice, the same Eibishter that said the words of Halacha Rabbi Lazar, and the same Torah said Achar Rabbi Mahatis. Why is it indeed that we're not accepting the Basco? So I'm going to allow your question to be answered throughout this year. It's going to be answered as we move along. Okay, so that's a question that it actually will help us get to the answer that we're trying to provide here. Let us continue with the next medrash, and then we'll see the common thread between this story, the medrash, and the third story we'll have from another piece of Gemara above Metzia. But I recall I wanted to go through here an interesting Sefer HaChinuch on this Gemara before we get to the medrash. The Sefer HaChinuch says that this machlokes between Rebbe Lezer and the Chachamim, who was really right? Who really had the correct psak din? Says the Sefer HaChinuch a fascinating word. B'machloikes hazeh shahayel Rabbi Eliezer im chaveirav, ha'emes haya ki Rabbi Eliezer. The truth is that Rabbi Eliezer had it right. U'kedivrei haBaskol shechriya kamoisei, as the Baskol affirmed that he was right. Although the emes was with him, why? How do we know he was right? He had a better pilpul. He explained himself better. He had more rayas to his psak. Nevertheless, his friends, which were not as sharp as he, were not as quick and not as deep, were not able to grasp what he's saying. They couldn't admit to him. They didn't understand what he's saying. And even if a Baskol came, I feel Acher Baskol, they would not admit because they couldn't understand the logic in his words. So they brought a proof from the instruction of the Torah. They told Rebbe Lezer, you may be smarter than us, and you may be saying something deeper that we're not grasping, and therefore we may be making a mistake. But at the present moment, the majority of Talmidei Chacham here in the Beis Medrash understand it differently, and the Torah says you have to follow what we say. That's how we saw in the conclusion of the story that Reb Shua ben Levi met Eliyahu Hanavi, and he asked him, what was Hashem doing when this whole argument was going on? And what did he say? Hashem said, Nitzchuni banai. The Rebbe would say, Natzchuni banai. My children have won me. They were victorious over me. They achieved, they figured something out beyond the scope of what I had to say, so to speak. Kaviyachol. They won the fight. They won the argument. What does that mean to say? Says the Sefer HaChinuch, written by one of the Rishonim. When Hashem says they won over me, Hashem is obviously the truth. If Hashem said the halacha is like this, then that's the Eibishter said the truth is like Rebbe Lezer. The Baskol said halacha Rebbe Lezer. That means that was the truth. He was saying the truth, not they. Nevertheless, yet the Yidden are coming with the argument that the Abishter said to listen to the Noiv. In this case, we have to admit and follow what they're saying. Although the emes will not be with us right now. It's as if the man of truth, the Abishter, was won over it. In other words, sometimes the Abishter is saying that even though the truth is one way, in this case, the rules will force us to follow what isn't true. It's a fascinating concept that although the Teda is Teda Semes and the Eibishter is Elikim Emes, yet in this case we will not follow the truth. This actually is different than Tosfos on the Sugya. If you look in Tosfos, Tosfos points out that this Baskol was only there because of the kavod of Rebbe Lazar, right? And so to speak, it wasn't the ultimate truth that the halacha of Rebbe Lazar, but the chinuch holds that it was the truth was with Rebbe Lazar, and it was just that the other chum couldn't reach and understand it, so we have to follow the rabbim. Gewaldige Wort. There's other cases that you have this concept. If somebody was caught or was brought to trial because he killed somebody, and there are two witnesses, and everything goes through the entire procedures of the court, and they conclude that this person is indeed a murderer. But the person claims that it's not true. He says it's not true, the testimony is false, and he disagrees with the facts that are being presented. The Torah says that nevertheless he has to say vidui before he gets killed. He's being taken out to the death penalty, skila, whatever it is, and he has to say vidui beforehand. Yet the guy says, I didn't do it. So the halacha is that he still has to say it. So there seems to be a clash here. He claims that the truth is I didn't do it. Right? And unfortunately, there's stories in the Gemara that for one reason or another, there were cases that people were assumed to be chayiv misa for certain things, and they weren't really chayiv. Unfortunate things. But the din is that you have to say vidui. Even if you are, according to your information, it's not true. I'm just bringing that in as a side example. But the idea is that sometimes we will see that if the truth is, even when the truth isn't there, we still have to follow the rules. And that's how the Chinuch explains this sugya over here. We'll get back to this and how this connects to, like Daniel, you asked, why is this, why indeed do we do it this way? Hashem is the one that wrote the entire Torah, so listen to the Baskal as well. And how does this have to do with what Matan Torah introduced? We'll get back to this in a second. Let's go over to the next medrash. Okay, so in the worksheet, I gave you only one medrash, but I'm going to just collect from three different medrashim the same idea. The first medrash, Kishemiskansin Malachi Ashaz L'Nei Kadosh Baruch Hu Leimar Emasei L'Shoshana Emasei Yom Kippurim. When they gather the Malachim and they ask the Eibishter, when will the Shoshana be? What day is it this year? Is that on Monday? Is it on Tuesday? Which day? How's the calendar turning out this year? HaKadosh Baruch Hu Eimer Lehem, Ma'atem Shoyelim, why are you asking me? Ani va'atem neilech etzel din shel mata. You're asking the wrong person. I don't decide the calendar. You have to remember that in times of the Beis Hamikdash and the time in the short period afterwards, they continued to make the calendar month by month according to Edom that came and said that they saw the new moon. So there was no calculation that you can figure out when Rosh Chodesh will be and when Yom Tov will be. So Hashem says, you can't ask me this question. I don't decide. The Beis Din Shalmata decides. A similar medrash in Shmos Rabbah, Amalei HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yisrael, Lisha Omar, in the past, Haya Biyadi, making Rosh Chodesh, deciding the calendar was in my hand. Shenemar, Asa Yareach L'Moyadim. Hashem said, I made the moon, I made the sun, but for the Jewish calendar, it's relevant as the moon. I made it so that we can decide when Yom Tov is. From now and on. And this Mikan Ve'elach would mean from Matan Torah and on, it is given over to your hands. It's in your domain. If we say Rosh Chodesh is Rosh Chodesh, then Rosh Chodesh. If we say it's not, it's not. It's all in your hands. And even if you want to put in a whole new month to make it a leap year, I will go along with it. It's yours. Lochem, it's yours. So here in this message, you have that word that is similar to what we brought from the previous story, that there was Matan Torah said, Sinai, and that's why we cannot listen to Abasko. Over here, he uses the word Mikan Ve'elach. From now and on, it's in your hands. There was a time that it was in Hashem's hands, and then there was a time that it was switched. It was given over to the hands of the Yidden. And a final Yerushalmi on the same note, Chaydana Omar, Chaydana is either a person or some say it means like a Chaydim. The Jewish nation is different than all other nations. But the way it is performed in the world is, the government is the one that decides when the court will be open. When the virus leaves, the courthouses will open. In the meantime, it's not in session, right? They decide, the government decides. All those that are being accused, all those gangsters in the case that the Medrash was talking about, they say, let's push it off. Hopefully it won't be today, it'll be tomorrow. The decision making is done by the government, although the listim are trying to push it off. Who has the final word? Loila Shilton, is it not the government? That's how it works. The government, they're in charge, they make the decisions. By the Eibusher is not that way. Amru Beis Din Hayom Shoshana. When Beis Din say, because they brought in the test, the Eidim, and they decide today is the Shoshana. So at that time, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Omer L'Malachi Hasharis, Hamidu Bima, put the Bima in place. Yamdu Sanigayin, and get the lawyers in place. Get all those that are the advocates. Yamdu Katigayin, and those that are the prosecutors should get into place. Amru Banai Hayom Shoshana. Because my sons said today is Rosh Hashanah, so you got to set up the courthouse. You got to make sure we're ready for Rosh Hashanah. Nimluchu Beis Din la'abra l'machar. Beis Din decided that the month of Elul has to be a 30-day month, and therefore Rosh Hashanah will be tomorrow. Send me the bima, okay? Take away the bima. Let the prosecutors and lawyers and advocates all leave the courthouse. Because my children said tomorrow will be the court. Not today. What's the source for all of this? The pasuk says, if it's not yet a chayk, if it's not been brought into law by the Yisrael, then there's no courthouse by God Himself. So here we see another medrash where you're all in the same nekuda, that the decision of when the court of Rosh Hashanah should take place, and the same is regarding Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Rosh Chodesh, and all the Yom Tovim, and especially the thing about today being Rosh Chodesh, the decision making of when is Rosh Chodesh is in the hands of the people. Although at an earlier time, this was in the hands of Hashem. Our last story that you hopefully prepared is the story of Rabbi Bar Nachmani. Gewaldige story. There's a lot of talk about this story in Chassidus, but let me just go to the nekuda of the story and how it's negate to our shir. In the heavenly yeshiva in Gan Eden, there was an argument. We know when we're talking about Tzoras has two elements to it. The skin needs to turn white, and then there's the hair inside the skin. And there's a question. What is if you don't know what happened first? It is clear, says the Gemara, quoting the heavenly yeshiva, if the skin color turned white before the hair inside turned white, so there was first the skin, and then the hair was affected, tummy, it's for sure impure, it's tummy. And if it's the other way around, the hair was first white and then the skin was affected, for sure tar. What is the halacha when it was a suffix? You don't know what happened first. He wakes up one morning, they're both there. The skin has changed, the hair has changed. What is the halacha? HaKadosh Baruch Hu emer tahar. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, tahar. If you don't know for sure, then you count him as tahar. All the neshamas studying in that heavenly yeshiva said, Tami. An argument. In Chassidus, it talks about what does it mean an argument with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's explained, there's different madrigas. You can look it up in the Kursichas Chelik Yud Beis on the Parsha of Tazria. Beautiful Sikha based on a Maimon Likud Torah. But what we want to bring out is the last line. Va'amri ma noichach, who will be present to make a decision? Noichach, Rabbi Bar Nachmani. We're going to find out from Rabbi Bar Nachmani. Rabbi Bar Nachmani was alive at the time in this world. And as according to the story of the Gemara, it was his last moments of life. And he paskin tahar. Okay? Actually, in the Poskim, the Rambam and others have a question, what should be the halacha in this case? As you can see, there's a small base near the word tamei, because the Rambam actually paskins tamei, because if you read the story in the Gemara carefully, the moment Rabbi Bar Nachmani said the word tahar, he actually died. As the Gemara says, Yatsa nishmascha b'tah, while saying tahar. So he says that since Rabbi Nachmani actually said the word tahar after he died, so we don't have to follow Rabbi Nachmani because he wasn't a living person. The other Rishonim that paskin like Rabbi Nachmani claim that he was still alive when he said tahar, and therefore we paskin like him. But either way you look at it, the Nekuda is why did they look out for Rabbi Nachmani to make a decision? Were there not great minds in the Mesivta Dedekiah that were making arguments? HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself was stating an opinion. Why did they turn to Rabbi Nachmani to make the psakdin? And the answer is, the reason why they turned to Rabbi Nachmani because you need to have a living person in Olam Hazeh to make that decision. The decision cannot be made by those that are in the heaven in Gan Eden. It has to be down here lamata. With all these stories in mind, the story of Rabbi Lezer, the Medrash about Rish Chodesh, and this story of Rabbi Nachmani, we have the nekuda of our answer regarding what changed when we studied Torah today, in contrast to how it was studied when the Aves learned Torah before Matan Torah, before Torah was given. The answer is like this. When they learned Torah before Matan Torah, they were able to receive information. They can study, they can learn, try to understand, but they have no rights to make decisions. They cannot make any conclusive change. They could only understand them, read and figure out the information. But it's not theirs. It's not there. It's not enabled to be edited. Sometimes you open up those files, you can read the file online, you can even download it, but you cannot edit it. It's not yours to change. It's not yours to make any sort of modification. Nothing. It's not yours. It belongs to the heavens. It belongs to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It belongs to the heavenly worlds. You in Olam Hazeh, like the Aves, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and the yeshiva that was in Mitzrayim before Yaakov came down, he established a yeshiva. I'm assuming that all Zainiklach were sitting and learning, right? Especially Shevet Levi. All they did at that time was they acquired information. They can acquire information. They can even argue about it, try to explain. But whatever maskana they came to made no difference. They could not add to the Torah in any which way. They couldn't make decisions. However, Matan Torah. What does Matan Torah mean? He gave us the Torah. What does it mean he gave it? Now it belongs to Bnei Yisrael. When there will be a question, what is the pshat in this pasuk? What is the ramifications? What is the consequences of this pasuk? Or any other part of Torah? Who will make the decision? What is the correct pshat? It has to be by Bnei Yisrael in this world. If it's done by Neshamis in Gan Eden, it's not going to count. If it's done by Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov in Gan Eden, it won't count. It has to be done by somebody living in this world that lives after Har Sinai, after Matan Torah. And that's what Rabbi Yeshua was telling Rabbi Eliezer then in the Beis Medrash. You have a Basco, that's fine. That would work before Matan Torah, when Torah belonged to them. Now it belongs to us. So it's like, if I have a car, while I own the car, I can decide what it's done to me. Once I sell it to somebody else, I can save a half this morning. What's the best way to use the car? It's not my call. It's not mine anymore. I gave it over to somebody else. Someone else is in charge. And that is what Rabbi Yeshua told Rabbi Eliezer. We are now in charge to make the decision. Even though you're right, you may have a good argument, you can't bring in the heavens to support you. We're going to figure it out our way. It's based on our seichel. We are human beings. We're not as smart as the Eibush. They're not even close, and not even close to the wisdom that the Neshamas have in Gan Eden. But he gave it to us to decide. We will figure it out according to the best of our ability, according to the rules that we were given. But the decision will be in our hands. That's the same applies to Rosh Chodesh. Even if the Beis Din did not come to the right conclusion, they made Rosh Chodesh on the wrong day. Hashem says, I'm following what you said. You guys are in charge. And the same is why they have to ask Rabbi Nachmani. The decision-making of an aspect of Torah is through people in Olam Hazeh. That's what it means that Torah was given to us. I want to give like an example to this. Okay? Every country has a constitution. Okay? Every country has a constitution. The constitution is written out when the country was founded, when they start off, and all the laws that the government in any time puts into place has to fit the constitution. Who could change something in the Constitution? I don't want to talk about so much change, but I want to talk about explain what is the intention of the Constitution. Okay? So there's designated courthouses or legislators or that they can decide what is the meaning of the words in this Constitution. Okay? There's a certain body of people that are in charge. They interpret the word, they explain the words of the Constitution. And however they explain, that becomes the law. The same thing, lahavdil, is when it comes to the Torah. The psukim are there, the rules are there, there's guidelines, how we have to study Torah. But once you follow the guidelines and you have a pasuk that's unclear, does it mean tar, does it mean tameh? You have cases that aren't explicit in the Torah, you have to figure it out. Who makes the call? Who's in charge? The Bnei Yisrael given the rights. And that's the rights that were not by the Aves. The Aves did not have those rights. The Yeshiva and Mitzrayim did not have those rights. Until the day of Matan Torah, the rights were in the heavens. When Matan Torah came along, the rights were given to the people. I just want to add something like this, according to Chassidus. Chassidus, and especially in the Maimer, there's a special Maimer in Torah or Parshas Yisro called Chodesh Hazeh Lochem, and the Rebbe encouraged every person to learn this Maimer, especially today, Rosh Chodesh Sivan. And over there he speaks about the Torah that was given to us, and we can make changes and we can decide how to learn Pshat. Where does that end? Where is the borderline to doing that? Can any person write a Pshat on Chumash and say this is what the Torah meant? Could any guy write a explanation to certain mitzvahs and that should be considered Torah? Today, you can go to any library and find hundreds and thousands of books on Talmud, on Chumash, that are written by non-Jews or written by Jews that are not necessarily following the ways of Torah and mitzvahs. Do their decisions count? Do their explanations to the psukim count? Is it true? Are authentic pirushim? Do their books become holy? Are they considered part of the Torah? Right? Rashi wrote a commentary on Chumash. Rashi is holy. Right? If a sefer just of Rashi falls on the floor, we would pick it up. Right? There are a lot of mefarshim on Chumash and on Talmud that this is halik. Right? You have to respect them. However, if someone there's some many other books that were written by others that we would say it's not holy, but you can read in the bathroom. It's nothing. It's just some guy writing what he thinks the pshat of the pasuk is, has no holiness to it. So the thing we have to explore is, Rabbi Isai, what is the border? Where is the gvul? When do you say that because Torah was given to us, we could explain it as fits our logic, and we can decide what's the meaning of these psukim and what's the halachic ramifications, and when is it not in our hands? And the answer that the Alter Rebbe gives in that mimer is you have to have bittul. You have to have bittul to the Eibishter. When you have bittul to the Eibishter, and that was what a tanai, a condition that was necessary before they came to Matan Torah. They had to go through a process of bittul, and he explains how this works together with Shir Soimer and a chodesh hazeh lochem. A long mimer explaining how they developed that bittul. But you need that bittul. If you have bittul to the Eibishter, then the way you will understand the Torah will be considered the Torah, and your pshat will be considered pshat, and the halacha will be like you say. You have to have bittul. Bittul to who? To the Eibishter, the giver of the Torah. I would think by maybe a inaccurate example, but going back to the concept of the Constitution. In Tafshil Lamed Hey, there was a Farbrengen of the Rebbe, where the Rebbe spoke about, of course, introducing in the public school system. This wasn't Lamed Hey, but the public school system, about the moment of silence. The Rebbe did many different things to encourage better chinuch, even for non-Jews. And then there became this question, there has to be this separation between, how they call it, between state, church and state, what's it called? There has to be a difference between, sorry, I didn't catch this, say it again.
No, yeah, you're right, church and state.
Okay, I didn't hear it clearly, but the idea is...
You're right.
What?
Church and state, you're right.
Church and state, okay, yeah. The difference in church and state, right? So the government cannot support anything that is religious, anything that has to do with belief in Hashem, and so on. And they can't give out money for that, and so on. And the Rebbe made the argument like this. The people that came to this country, the founding fathers, were people of faith. And they came to this country because they were prosecuted for being people of faith, and they wanted to live in a way that they're not being disturbed to do what as their faith requires from them. So when they wrote that there has to be a separation between church and state, right? Their intention was that the state should not get involved in what religion I have. Don't mix into my matters of faith. It's none of your business. You shouldn't try to persuade me or try to force me to do or not to do as my faith tells me to do, so then you stay out of it. So they were not trying to dismiss faith. They weren't trying to say that we don't care about faith. Faith is irrelevant in our country and we will not support faith. That's not what they're trying to say. They were trying to say, fakert, we will not interfere with your faith. You want to be a religious man? Hey, believe in God. We're in full support. We will not interfere. But the wording of the Constitution, I'm not sure the exact words, but the idea is there's separation between state and church and state. So there could come along a lawyer and say, take the words as they are, and these words say this and this message, and if I limit myself to the exact words of the written Constitution, then the law has to be like this and like this. And there are lots of wise men that analyze the exact wording of the law, of the Constitution, and based on the exact wording, they will take out the halacha, the law that they want to bring out of it. Why? Because they're taking the words to the literal, and they're applying what the words mean. But they're forgetting the spirit, how these words were written, who wrote them, and where were the writers? What were they thinking? So and because of that, they make, so to speak, a mistake. They come to a conclusion that the words mean this and this and that, and that's because they were only looking at the words. They're forgetting who wrote it. So they can be very smart men, and they know their language very well. They know what the words mean very well, and they're coming to correct conclusions when they look at the words. But they forgot who wrote it, the spirit behind it. And because of that, they can make a mistake and say separation of church and state means disregard religion. We can't help, we can't support religion in any which way. That's a mistake because they're not looking at who wrote it. The same thing, lahavdil, with people when we're talking about learning Torah. When you learn Torah, you have to know who wrote it. Who wrote it? The Torah. The Eibishter wrote the Torah. If you learn Torah and you know who wrote it, and you think about the Eibishter, the creator of the world, and which has a purpose of and so on and so forth, and then with that bittul to the Eibishter, with the recognition who wrote it and the greatness of the Eibishter, and he's the creator and he has the vision for the whole world, v'chulu v'chulu, as the Chassidus explains about Arichos, you have that in mind. Then you go to read that sentence that Hashem wrote, that pasuk that Hashem wrote, that Mishnah, anything part of Torah, and then you're trying to figure out what did Hashem want over here. I remember I learned to know Torah about Rabbi Yisrael Friedman, who's recently passed away. I remember once in the middle of an intense shir, he was trying to explain a Tosfos or figure out what Tosfos is saying. And in bringing svaras back and forth, in the middle he puts in, do you think this is what the Eibishter meant in this thing, in this svara, this Tosfos? You have to always remember who wrote it. If you're constantly conscious of who wrote it, then you're guaranteed that you would be mechaven. You're going to hit the target. You're going to reach the true intention of the pasuk. You have to have bittul. You have to have bittul to the Eibishter in order that your psak din should come to as the Eibishter wants. So, in conclusion, you have over here the guidelines of the Torah when our words, when our explanation is considered Torah. You have to have bittul to the Eibishter. You have to be out there to really get to what the Eibishter wants, and that makes that part a chiluk of Torah. So you have what we studied over here, these stories that bring out a pinigla, what it means Hashem gave us the Torah, and we have the guideline of Chassidus, how our words could actually become Torah if we have that bittul. I'm going to conclude with one story that the Frierdiker Rebbe tells us over, and that story I think could bring out the entire shir in a Ma'aser Shahaya. So I believe it was in Sefer Sichas Tafresh Tzadik Vav. The Frierdiker Rebbe says a story like this: Kidua Ma'aser Rav Tzadik Rav Hillel Paritcha, which we know was a chassid of the well, he didn't see the Alter Rebbe, but he was a chassid ready for the times of the Alter Rebbe and Mittler Rebbe, and like Tzemach Tzedek, he was ready from the Elter Chassidim. After he heard a mime of the Tzemach Tzedek, Amar Peter shal eze inyan, v'haya ma'agdolim she'amru Peter shbeifin acher. He said pshat in the mime of the Tzemach Tzedek in one way, and someone else said a different Pirush. Some people say that it was one of the other sons of the Tzemach Tzedek. There's different versions of how the story was given over. But when the Fidik Rebbe said, it doesn't say who it was, but somebody else argued in the pshat that Tzemach Tzedek said. They asked Tzemach Tzedek, so what's pshat? You said a mimer, and we're having an argument. What did you mean when you said this sentence? And the Tzemach Tzedek said, the pshat is not like the Hillel said, it's like the other person said. Basically, the Hillel did not back down. Ha'edmor be'ez zogt chsidis is schinem de be'er stekreine. It's as zogt pshat is that a yid was versteht chsidis. Can jeder nehmen wie versteht. What the Rebbe was saying like this: when the Rebbe is saying chsidis, that's the words of the Eibishter. That is schinem de be'er stekreine. That's the words. Al derech, the words of Chumash, the words of the Chumash, the words of the Mishnah. This is the Torah. As a zokt pshat, says the Hillel. Now, what is the meaning of these words? So now, we're all receivers of the Torah. We can all give a pshat. Can you add it up and be versteht? And therefore, he was saying that even though the Tzemach Tzedek that said the mimer himself, right? Said the mimer himself is giving a different pshat. The Hillel still held that his pshat was right. Now, before I go back to conclude with that story, I want to go to Daniel, your question. The Eibishter said himself that the halacha is like Rebbe Lezer, right? And he's the one that wrote the words Achrei Rabim Lahates, right? But there's a big difference. The words Achrei Rabim Lahates were given by Matan Torah. Those words were given to us, and therefore we have to follow through with it. And whenever we're going to have a discussion, what's pshat in a certain halacha, we're going to be the ones to decide, and we're going to decide it based on the Achrei Rabim Lahates. Right? This announcement of saying Halach Rebbe Lezer was not given. That's not part of Matan Torah. Right? There's no rule in the Torah. We have to listen to Basko. And therefore, we will stick to what was given to us by Matan Torah. When the Torah was given, and there's a halach about kalim becoming tamei, earthenware kalim becoming tamei, there's no details in this. There's of what to do in this exact case where you take it apart through chuliyos. So the pshat in this is going to be given to the hands of the chachamim. So even if the Eibishter himself, like the Tzemach Tzedek himself, is going to say pshat, says Reb Hillel, in this case, I want to argue. Why? Because the Torah was given to us now to understand, and therefore we're going to try to figure it out in our way. What's pshat? There's just to that story, the Rebbe Rashab once said that even though the Tzemach Tzedek was saying pshat, so the Hillel made this distinction when you're saying the mimer, but when you've done the mimer, you're just saying pshat. But the Rebbe Rashab said, but he was a kind of person that he can at times have shechina medaberes b'teich greinai. So even when he's just saying pshat, it's probably a little bit more value to his pshat than to someone that doesn't have the shechina medaberes b'teich greinai, right? So that's just bringing out, even when you hear pshat, who has greater level of bittul that's more machavin to the truth. I hope that you understood over here this answer to the question, how is Torah different today? Because now it's in our hands and it's our responsibility and our zchus that we can make a pshat in Torah and make that the new pshat. That is the pshat. We are the ones that decide what is the pshat and what is the halacha. And that's what you have today. So many rabbanim that are trying to figure out so many cases that are not written explicitly in the Torah. And we have to paskin and it's not in the heavens. There's a whole sefer called Shalos Teshuvos Min HaShamayim, which one of the Rishonim would ask questions and get answers in his dream. And there was a whole discussion: how can you rely on answers that you're getting from Shamayim? You have to have a psak din lamato. That's the share today.